Hey everybody, David Endless Salenka here, recording my thoughts on Pax Unplugged 2023, hosted at the Philly Convention Center in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Pax Unplugged is the one big tournament out of the year that I get to go to where I don't stream. Like, I make it my policy not to stream so that I can play in a big event and still try to place well and see where I'm at gameplay wise. This Pax was a good one. I thought it was really well organized, even though we had some issues with the lines outside on Saturday. It was a busy downtown situation. The sidewalks were completely jammed with people while trying to get in line for Saturday. But we got there to the tournament just in time. I think the opening remarks started less than 5 minutes after I reached the tournament area, which is less than I would have liked. Yeah, other than the lines, the event ran really smoothly. Nick Bodnar and Dave Faulkner did a really good job running the event. My first matchup was against Christopher Lewis, who finished 8th overall. He did really well with Ewoks. Of course, I brought Ewoks, and so it was a matchup where my list ran Ewoks with 2 full commandos, and his list ran just a pure Ewok skew. And it turns out that the pure Ewok skew definitely just beats the double commando because it has so much more activations than you. You're down by 2. You can't really kill everything you need to kill with just 2 commandos and Chewbacca. So he overran me on intercept the transmissions. I didn't want to play payload against him, but in theory, payload might have been the better pick, just because payload, sometimes you can create a game state where the shooting matters more than the melee, and because what you can do is you can put your cart in a position where the destination as red player, your cart can go to the far side and keep your cart from crossing the path of the opponent's cart. And in situations like that, I feel like the gun line matters a little more. And so in theory, I could have taken that approach, but I decided to go with an objective I was comfortable with. But unfortunately, when you play the 14-act Ewok skew, you do everything better than the not 14-act Ewok skew does. You do the same thing, but you do it better. So I got overrun on that, and I believe I conceded round 6 when I realized that I was going to be 2 unit leaders down on the center point. So going into the second match, I go 0-1, and I'm bounced into the loser's bracket, aside of the first round, and I end up facing a list I really don't want to see. And I mean, the guy who ran this list, props to him for bringing it, because I think it was kind of brave, but it really hard countered my list. It was Grievous with 4 HA B2s with tactical droids, and so it just destroys all of my defensive tech. All my cover goes away because of the blast troops. Grievous, is a really fantastic melee piece. He wipes out Ewok squads really easily in combat. And this list also had a couple of naked Magna Guards, so when you try to shoot Grievous, of course, the naked Magna is just Guardian for Grievous. So Grievous ended up being way harder to take down than I thought he would be, and the Hat Troopers kind of just had their way with my commandos, and even with Chewie being there to do some guardianing, it was still wasn't enough. The damage from the Hat Troopers is so incredible when you get into that range 2 zone. With the blast shot, you're averaging 5 to 6 hits, and so that's going to make short work of any white save infantry that they encounter. We played payload in this match, and I thought, I got 12 and he's got 9. I'm just gonna swarm him, but I think that's kind of what he wanted, was to get payload in there and wipe me out in a shooting match, and that's exactly what happened. So I only killed about a couple of units on his side, and I lost most of my army. I think I was down to just a few Ewok squads and Han at one point. Han made some excellent saves though. I had 2 last-ditch save conversions on Uncanny Luck that put me in a better position than normal. Han, had to make 2 saves, and he just Uncanny Lucked his way into 2 saves a couple times, and it was a really fun game, even though it was really one-sided. My third game was against Clones, and thankfully I had some relief there because my list was teched to beat Clones. By running the double full commandos, I was thinking, well, my ranged Pierce, and then with Chewie, of course, with his ranged Pierce, and Han, of course, with his ranged Pierce, it's going to be a pretty good shot against Clones. It's also going to be, change of plans coming into work against Yoda, say, messing up his rhythm a little bit. This clone player was playing Obi-Wan and Padme. I think he might have been a little bit newer to the game, but we got intercept the transmissions against an 8 activation differential, and so that was huge for me. I also had a really good line of sight blocker on my side of the board, so it was pretty tough for this clone army to engage me at all. And I managed to get off some charges. My commandos were doing a ton of work all game with my rolling crits, you know, because it's OP Padme, right? But nothing as situational, so you need to roll the crit, and you know, maybe you get barrier. And I think at one point I advised my opponent to take a standby on Obi-Wan, because if he didn't take a standby, I could just freely charge him with my piercing axes. But that game was over, you know, in short order. I had an insurmountable lead by turn 3. And he couldn't overcome it. My fourth game was against Rebels. It was a Rebel Hero Hammer featuring Cassian, K2, Han, and Chewie, so it was like a Han and Chewie mirror match, kind of. He also had a bus with Shriv, and I thought that bus was going to be annoying, but thankfully Chewbacca, a couple crits off my commandos, and Log Trap made short work of the bus. And in fact, I faced 2 buses all tournament, and they both received the same punishment. Just a lot of random crits from commandos and Log Traps just to finish it off. Made it so that the bus couldn't really do a whole lot. He infiltrated Cassian and K2 pretty far forward, and my Wicket scouting party on advanced positions brought my skirmishers like all the way up to charge range on the first turn, and on the first turn Cassian and K2 were just surrounded by a bunch of slavering murder bears. He couldn't really do a whole lot to get out of that situation. Cassian died to murder bears, and K2 also died to murder bears. And I think my commandos shot everything else down. He had some Wookiees that were trying to get into combat, and they missed their charge by like a millimeter. And then they got finished off by commando shooting.
We're back with day 2 of Pax Unplugged. There are 4 4-0s vying for that top spot in the tournament. We've got Richard Lavery running full Wookiees, Mike Berry running Coda, Yoda, Padme. We've got Chris Lewis running the 14 activation Ewok list out of France. And then we've got the last list. We've got Sam McHenry running his Anakin Padme, the super tank Pike spam list. It's going to be a good one today. Hopefully I can go 4-2 myself and cap off the tournament with a positive win rate.
So Sunday starts. I'm 2-2. I'm hoping to find some redemption and go 4-2. Alas, that was not to be. My first round, I pulled one of my locals, JJ Wood. He came from Florida to play, and he was playing Wookiee spam with Fluttercraft and the new Wookiee Battle Force. And oh man, commandos absolutely hate overrun, and that's exactly what happened. It was basically the opening of the match was my commandos trying to shoot down his Fluttercraft, and his Fluttercraft trying to bomb my commandos, and he was able to successfully bait me into shooting his bowcaster flutter, which allowed his bomber flutters to come in and start just wrecking house on my commandos. They were like triple moving at speed 3 over me and getting double overruns off. And you can't guardian an overrun attack because it's not a ranged attack. It's an overrun attack. So my commandos just went down by turn 2. They were all dead to bombs. He had some really good bombs too. He had like a couple of 4-hit bombs, if I'm not mistaken, as well. But it was breakthrough. I had him 12-9, and so my plan was just to run away. And it didn't really work out. Advanced positions was good enough for his Wookiees to get in. I had to like stall with Wicket. I had to, you know, run across some terrain where I didn't have any cover. And without the commandos, I couldn't really do any damage to the Fluttercraft. Like even Han and Chewie were having just a really hard time doing any damage at all to the Flutters. And everything on a white save just means that you get killed if you can't defend against it with something like terrain or dodge tokens or anything like that, if you don't have the ability to spam that out. So that game, I tried to play, you know, avoidance breakthrough and break through 12 activations, and I only managed to break through 4. And I think by round 5 I called it because it was obvious that he was going to get 5 in and I would only get 4 in. So we just scored it 5-4. Called it good. JJ, good game. We played that exact same game in Tampa, and the same result happened. And even though I thought I played that game poorly, I played this game a little bit better, but it was the same result. So I just really think that the Wookiee Defenders Battle Force is kind of I wouldn't call it a hard counter. I think the bomber flutters are a hard counter. Not everybody runs bomber flutters, but again, it's tech that specifically works against low profile and Ewoks. And Ewoks need their low profile. If they don't have their low profile, they're very, very sad, even with 3PO surges. So last game of the tournament, my 4-2 is out of reach. I'm 2-3. Best I can hope to do is go 3-3. And my last matchup ended up being against Shadow Collective, running a bus with a medic, some Mandalorians, a couple of Black Sun, a couple of Pike units, just basically like a Shadow Collective soup list. But I just remember the blast shots being very disappointing because the Mandos didn't have. There was something they didn't have, whether that was surges or marks. I think I was worried about the blast shots from the Mandalorian Super Commandos, but apparently they didn't have jetpack rockets or something. I can't remember exactly what happened. But I just remember the blast shots being very disappointing because the Mandos didn't have. There was something they didn't have, whether that was surges or marksmen. They just didn't have the ability to convert well on their blast shots, and I managed to bypass a lot of their defenses by going into melee with them and preventing their shields. And I believe it was also breakthrough again, but this time it was on battle lines, and my opponent just squared up with me and said, okay, we're going to brawl in a 3x3, and it ended up working out for me really well. The Ewoks were able to charge in and keep the Black Sun from shooting terribly. Shooting those big, fat frag grenade shots that just devastate you at range 1. Han was in melee at one point to shut down Black Sun shooting. Just because I figured it was more dangerous for Han to be out of melee than in melee at that point, even though Han's melee was bad, but he had a bunch of Ewoks backing him up, so I was like, okay, well, let's just keep him safe in melee. Even if they do punch Han with a couple reds, it's going to be, just a couple wounds, maybe, because Han's got Uncanny Luck, and I was banking a lot on Uncanny Luck this tournament to bail me out of some bad situations, which is not good strategy, but it ended up being necessary. But yeah, against Shadow Collective Soup, I did manage to take that game down to go 3-3 on the tournament. The Mandalorians, unfortunately, did not save very well, and they didn't have the medic available because the bus got log trapped and meleeed to death by turn 2. It just got blown up really quickly, and there wasn't much that my opponent could do to save it. Shadow Collective doesn't have any repair bots, so your bus needs Gonk essentially in Shadow Collective, I feel. I don't think it's required. Like, I don't think it's mandatory to have Gonk on your bus, but if you have the spare points, you should take a Gonk on the bus, because it's just going to give you that extra little bit of longevity. Maybe you get a regeneration over the round. It's going to help save your bus a little bit and just keep it alive that much longer to get maybe 2 heals off, where you would have gotten only 1 heal off, say, with the Backworld Medic. So what were some of my takeaways from this tournament? Wicket is a complete beast, especially when he's got situational awareness and tenacity. I had, situations where Wicket was like soloing things that he shouldn't be able to solo just because he was able to take wounds and then use his 3-pip to get extra dice on his melee attacks. You'll have Wicket's 2 red, black, you'll have tenacity red, and then you'll have 3 wounds, so you get 3 white dice, all with crit surge. And so he's got Pierce 1, so he's basically a miniature Jedi at that point, and he's got null courage, so he can't be suppressed. It's wild what you can do with Wicket and Courageous counterattack. Commandos are really good in the Bright Tree Battle Force, but I don't think you're going to win mirrors is the issue. I think you just need to go full Ewok skew, which, kind of sucks for your wallet, because a full Ewok skew, I believe, is 9 boxes of Ewoks. So that's, $360 of Ewoks right there if you don't 3D print your models. I think I could have used a little more reps. I was kind of, exploring a lot of lists before the tournament, and I didn't really focus hard on my Bright Tree, because I think I was confident in my Bright Tree, but I didn't really account for the fact that I have just so many bad matchups as Bright Tree. There's just a lot out there that can just hard counter you, things that deny cover, especially the blast guns on B2s and the overrun on the Fluttercraft. Those are what really hard countered me all tournament. And, I don't think there's any, I don't see that there's any tech other than just more Ewoks to counter that. If you have more Ewoks, it softens the blow of just losing a few models here and there, because you're running 80 models of Ewoks, or however many it is. What is it, 6 per squad, 7 with the heavy weapon, and so you have 9 times 6 is 50 models. Okay, so it's not 80 models, but it's a lot. It's a lot of Ewoks, and it's going to be tough for your opponent to chop through that, even if they're overrunning twice or hitting you with a blast cannon. And what I failed to do in my B2 matchup was get into melee with the B2s, because B2 melee is garbage, and it's just 1 black with no surge. It's terrible, and there's only a very few models in there. So what you want to do is go in melee with the B2s, and just if he runs the Magnas into melee, you just damn the torpedoes and say, fine, I'm just gonna eat a Magna hit. For more PAX content, you guys should check out my Patreon, patreon.com/YavinBase. I've got a couple of interviews with Richard Lavery, the runner-up, and Sam McHenry, the winner of the tournament. It was ultimately won by Anime, which is, you know, Anakin, Padme, and Pikes, and the Wookiee Battle Force with just pure Wookiee spam got second. You can find out more about that on Patreon if you want to become a member. PAX was great. I had a great time, saw a lot of people I knew, and it was awesome. So thanks for listening, guys. Hope to catch you in the next video. Thanks.